Hello, and welcome back to Nerd News. Today we have the nominations for the Game Awards, which will be airing December 8th, and we have an episode 6 of Bleach came out today. Let's get started. First up, we have a patch for The Witcher 3 for the next generation consoles, or the current generation consoles, I guess at this point, now that it's been 2 years. Yeah, a free update coming to The Witcher 3 for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. I mean, it's cool, I guess. I didn't really get too much into The Witcher, but after Cyberpunk, they kind of need to earn back some goodwill with the fans for CD Projekt Red. I think this will go this is another step towards doing that instead of re-releasing the game, and they probably could have re-released it for a full $70 and people would have bought it with the next gen patch, something like Grand Theft Auto 5 did, but no, they just decided to release the patch for free, and I mean that's good. It's probably how it should be. It's probably not that big of a patch, but it's cool. It's good to see. Like I said, they need to earn some goodwill back with their audience. So this is a solid first, not first. This is a solid step in that direction, especially with all the Witcher projects announced coming up. They should probably work on that audience relation a little bit if they expect their next game to sell after the disaster that was Cyberpunk. And next up, we have the Game Awards, and that'll be airing December 8th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the announcement for the nominations this year, and we're not going to go over everything. There's like 30 categories that we're not going over all of them. The esports ones I don't care about, and there's a bunch of others I don't really care about, but we're going to go over the few that I do care about. For Best Debut Indie Game, we have Neon White, Narco, Stray, Tunic, and Vampire Survivor. I haven't had a chance to play Stray yet, but Tunic is fantastic. I really hope that wins. Best Multiplayer, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, because of course, Multiverses, Overwatch 2, Splatoon 3, and Shredder's Revenge. And I've played Call of Duty. It's fine. I don't think it's that anything special. It's a fine Call of Duty game. Turtles and Multiverses are probably the best two, in my opinion, on here, and I think I have to give it to Turtles. I think that's probably the best one. Best Sim and Strategy Game, we have 2 Point Campus, Victoria 3, Total War, Warhammer 3, Mario & Rabbids Spark of Hope, and Dune Spice Wars. The only one I played was Mario & Rabbids, and I really like Mario & Rabbids, so I kind of hope that wins. Best Family Game, this is like the Nintendo category, and it's Kirby, Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, Mario & Rabbids again, Nintendo Switch Sports, and Splatoon 3. I have a strong feeling it's going to end up going to Splatoon 3. That game's huge. But honestly, I would really like to see Kirby win. Kirby was a really good game. I didn't love Kirby the way everyone else did, but what I did, I kind of just got bored playing it. I didn't really have time to put into it, and by the time I did, I just didn't want to play it anymore. But what I did play was really good, and that's probably the best game on there. Best Fighting Game is a funny one, because Sifu is in there. I don't know why, but Multiverses, King of Fighters 15, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle R, and DNF Duel. Probably Multiverses. That's the only one I really played. JoJo's a funny inclusion. But it's like a PS3 game that's just being brought up to the PS4. I don't really know why that's in there. I don't think that's nomination worthy. Best role-playing game, we have Elden Ring, Live Alive, Arceus, Triangle Strategy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And my pick is Legends Arceus. That was the best game that I played among these, and I touched on every one of these games. I didn't get as far as I would have liked to in Triangle Strategy. I just didn't have time to play it. I started it, but I didn't really have time to play it, so I ended up not playing it. I have to get back to it at some point. Elden Ring was terrible. I did not like that at all. Live Alive was good, but I think Legends Arceus was better. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is... You either really like Xenoblade or you don't, and I do not. Apparently Xenoblade 3 is really good, so maybe that's your pick, but I think Legends Arceus might be the best one on here. Not only was it a fantastic game, but it was such a big improvement for Pokemon, which is already like one of the better RPGs. Like, whether you want to admit that or not, it's by far the best-selling RPG. And one of the best-selling games series ever. So there is something to say that Pokemon is one of the best RPGs out there, even if it's not, you know, technically that great. It's beloved. I think Legends Arceus is probably the best Pokemon game. I think it strongly deserves the win here, just because of how big Pokemon itself is and how good of a game this is for that franchise. Pokemon has done a lot for gaming, and I think it deserves the win here. Best action adventure game. We have Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Tunic. I'm going to say God of War. I've put about 5 hours into it, which isn't a lot, but it's more than I put into any of these other games. But also, as much as I really liked Tunic, and I think Stray will be really good, although I've heard it's good for a while and just not as good for the rest of it. Horizon Forbidden West is just spot filler. Plague Tale Requiem I hear is good, but I don't think it's anything. It's not God of War. Basically, what this comes down to is are you God of War? No. Okay, you probably aren't going to win then. God of War is probably the best game I've played this year. Honestly, it's between God of War and Legends Arceus for me is what's the better game I've played this year. It's pretty close too. I really did like Legends Arceus. Best action game, we have Shredder's Revenge again, Sifu, which actually should be here. This is where it should be. It shouldn't be a fighting game, but it should be here. Neon White, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I guess, and Bayonetta 3. I think it's got to go to Bayonetta 3. I haven't played Bayonetta 3. I have played Call of Duty again, and I've played Shredder's Revenge. Those are both fantastic. But Bayonetta 1 and 2 are some of the best action games just ever made. They up there with like Beautiful Joe and Devil May Cry is some of the best action games, period. And while I haven't played Bayonetta 3, mine literally came today, which is pretty funny. It's been out for like 2 or 3 weeks now, and I just got my copy in. Amazon can go fuck themselves. But so I haven't had a chance to play it yet. But from what I understand, it is just a better version of Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. It's just everything is improved upon. I have heard that there's frame rate issues, but I've heard everything from it's so bad it's basically unplayable to it's not that big of a deal. You barely will notice it once you're playing. So while I haven't played it, I can't speak to the frame rate issues. It seems like the game is every bit as good as or at least every bit as good as Bayonetta 2 is. And if it's as good as Bayonetta 2, it's better than pretty much every other game on this list, just because Bayonetta 2 is better than every game on this list. So I have to give it to Bayonetta 3. But aside from that, if Bayonetta 3 just isn't as good as I assume it's going to be based on what I've heard, I think Turtles would be my next pick. Turtles was really good, and honestly, if you haven't played Turtles and you like NES Turtles, or like if you're a fan of like Turtles in Time or something, you should really check Turtles out. It was a really, really good game. Next up, we have Best Mobile Game, and I'm not really a fan of cell phone games and mobile games, but I did want to talk about this one just because Marvel Snap is nominated, and Marvel Snap is a fantastic game. I'm absolutely loving it. I do not really play games on my phone. It's just not something I use my phone for. I really do like Marvel Snap. I've put quite a bit of hours into this game. It's a lot of fun. Very good game. If you haven't played it, check it out. I was going to actually make a video on it at one point, and then I just didn't have time to do it, and now I don't really feel like doing it. But I was going to make a video on it because it really is that good of a game. Maybe sometime next year if I get time. That's my only pick for Game of the Year. We're not even going to talk about the other ones because I know nothing about them. I just really like Marvel Snap. So, Best Indie Game, we have Cult of Lamb, Neon White, Sifu, Stray, and Tunic. I haven't played Cult of Lamb yet, and I haven't played Stray yet. I've played Tunic. I think I have to give it to Tunic, but I really want to give it to Cult of Lamb because that game looks so good, but I don't want to buy it because there's a physical copy coming out like early next year, and I just want to wait for the physical copy. But that looks so good. It looks like the game for me, so I really want to pick that one up. For right now, I have to say Tunic, but that's really just because it's the only one I've really played. But Cult of Lamb looks really good, so I'm kind of hoping Cult of Lamb wins. If nothing else, just because it gives me more of a reason to pick it up. For best performance, I really just want to talk about the God of War cast, Christopher Judge and Sonny Suljic. It's hard for me to pick one. Christopher Judge as Kratos is fantastic. He nails Kratos. He sounds so good as Kratos. But I think I want to go Sonny Suljic just because, as good as Kratos is, I think it's really Atreus that makes the game as far as the dialogue. He can be a little of a bit of annoyance. He has that Navi annoyance to him, but I don't think that's his fault. I think that's just because that's what he does in the game, is kind of act as your help. So he's always reminding you of things. If he tells me I'm on fire one more time, I'm going to kill him. But beyond that, the actual dialogue that's important to the game, the actual story dialogue and stuff like that, he has been the best part, and I kind of hope he wins. I think it's very well deserved. Really loving God of War, by the way. If you haven't noticed, really loving God of War. Best narrative, this is usually the kind of game I like, because I like narrative-driven games. And of these, the only ones I've played are Elden Ring, Horizon, and God of War. And I haven't played Immortality or Plague Tale. I do want to play Plague Tale. I hear good things, but I haven't actually played it. This is pretty obvious. It's going to be God of War for me. In both, in the PS5 video, I talked about how I didn't like Horizon that much, and I didn't like Elden Ring that much, and that holds true here. And both of them have narrative problems. That's the two complaints I had, just completely different reasons. But speaking of different reasons, why is Elden Ring in best narrative? There's no narrative. Like, there's world building, there is lore, but that's not the same thing as a narrative. There's not like a real ongoing story, and at least not a compelling or coherent one. It's weird. That's a weird choice. That's like, does it technically fit? I guess, but it probably shouldn't be nominated. I guarantee you there's another game that could have been nominated for best narrative if you really want to put something, like, if they needed a fifth game, there's plenty of good narrative games out there that could have been nominated. I don't think Elden Ring really needed to be here. Elden Ring should not have been here. Put Xenoblade here. That's at least a story-driven game. And lastly, the obvious one, we have to talk about Game of the Year, and Plague Tale Requiem, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I do really want to play Stray, so I'm glad it's here because it looks fantastic, but I don't think it's going to win. Plague Tale Requiem, I really want to play. I don't think it's going to win, but I'm glad it's here, I guess. Xenoblade definitely deserves the credit after the last couple Xenoblade games, but I don't know that I'd say 3 is in a position to win. I think it's nice that they're finally being nominated, because there's a long-running joke of Xenoblade constantly getting snubbed at the Game Awards, so it's nice that it's here, but I don't see it winning. And again, I do not care for Horizon or Elden Ring, so my pick has to be God of War, except honestly, I would not pick any of these as my Game of the Year, at least not currently. Again, I haven't finished God of War. Maybe by the end of it I'll change my mind, but honestly right now I think I have to go Pokemon Legends Arceus as my Game of the Year. As much as I'm loving God of War, it's very fun, it's a very good game, doesn't hold up to Pokemon. And that's just me. That's just my love of Pokemon kind of overtaking what is objectively a better game. Obviously God of War is the better game, but I had way more fun with Pokemon than I think I'll have with any other game. That usually rings true for pretty much every year. Pokemon is generally the game I have the most fun with. But in this specific instance, Legends Arceus was so much better than pretty much every Pokemon game before it, that I genuinely had more fun with that Pokemon game than I've ever had with a Pokemon game. And Pokemon is already the games I enjoyed the most, so I think Pokemon's probably my Game of the Year, but if I had to pick one of these 6, it's God of War. But yeah, God of War for Game of the Year. I think it's going to win. I have strong feelings that Elden Ring will win, and I guess Elden Ring in a way deserves it because Elden Ring was way more unique compared to just other things in the landscape, but unique doesn't always mean good, at least not to me, and I think the things that it did that were drastically different from most other games were kind of a negative. A lot of people talk about how it has like no HUD, there's nothing on the screen that, you know, for gauges or where to go or what's going on, and some people really like that because it's more immersive, and that's fine. I hate it. It's terrible. I don't like this game like at all. There's so many things I don't like about this game. So for me, it's going to be God of War, but I can understand if you want to pick Elden Ring. That is probably the other major title that in some ways definitely deserves it, but if I had to pick one, it's going to be God of War. Also, they should have dropped Xenoblade and put Legends Arceus for Game of the Year. And lastly, we have episode 6 of Bleach, which aired this morning, or yesterday morning at the time of watching. With the exception of some small interruptions for Uryu, it was almost exclusively Captain General Gamurusai Yamamoto versus Yuhabak, which, if you've watched it, so spoilers, every Monday there is spoilers for Bleach at the end of these videos, so spoilers, if you've watched it, he's not fighting Yuhabak, he's fighting Lloydroid, right? Or is it the other one? What, he's fighting the one of the guys that looks exactly the same, and he ends up absolutely murdering this man with his Bankai, which this is the first and only time we will see his Bankai, and it's pretty impressive to be just covered in flames like that, as hot as the sun, to summon all of the dead, and not just any dead, but the people he killed with his Bankai that were also Yuhabak's own allies and own soldiers, to force Yuhabak to fight through his own dead soldiers was... the animation on that was just absolutely wonderful. This was a fantastic episode, and I did say last week that this was probably going to be one of, if not the best episodes of the series, and I think that came true. It is definitely one of the best episodes of the series. His Bankai was absolutely amazing. They did an incredible job translating the chapters to the screen here. I do think that the additional scenes plus the addition of the Uryu scenes kind of caused it to end not quite where I thought it was going to, but at the same time it ended right before, and it ended pretty much where it had to end. It was either that had to be either the middle or the end, and instead of cutting the fight really short and kind of rushing through it, I think they chose to extend it a little bit and make this the end scene so that we can focus on what happens next episode, which is probably for the best. There was no way to squeeze everything that happened into one episode. It was always going to be about a 45-minute thing, and by separating it into 2 episodes, at this point we get we'll have plenty of time for next week with what's going to happen. I don't really want to spoil anything because while we do spoilers for the episodes that are out, at this point it's been out for about 24 hours, so, you know, it's fair game, I guess. I don't want to tell you what's going to happen next week, even though I know what's going to happen next week. It's still a fantastic episode. My second favorite of the 6 so far, but I don't think it's as good as last week's. I think last week's episode is still the best episode so far, and I don't think that's going to get topped, at least not for me, and probably not for a very long time. Later towards the end-ish of the series, I think there's a couple episodes that might top it, but mostly just because of specific characters that I really like being there and not necessarily what actually happens. I think last episode was the big moment with Byakuya. That's probably the biggest scene of this arc. This episode was really good. Really liked the way they portrayed his Bankai, and I think it really holds up to what was shown in the manga. I think they really did this justice, and they obviously put a lot of budget into this. The zombie scene for his Bankai was fantastic. The fire around him looked really, really good. Good episode. Really strong. Can't wait for next week. Really looking forward to that one. And that's all the news for today. It's only 3 stories, I know, but the Game Awards was kind of a long one. I didn't want this to be like another half-hour video. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more nerd news. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and let me know who you think's gonna win Game of the Year, or if you think something got snubbed from all of the categories, what should have been added. I would have liked to have seen more Kirby and more Pokemon. While they both were at it for one thing apiece, I think they could have been nominated for a little bit more. Like I said, I think Pokemon should have been nominated for Game of the Year. What Legends Arceus did for the Pokemon franchise, and I think it deserves at least a nod, even if it was never going to win. I think it should win because it's my Game of the Year, but I don't think it would actually win. But it should have been nominated, in my opinion. Thanks for watching. Bye.